Hello everyone, this is Ross from the Kaijusaurus Podcast with a very special announcement on this, the year anniversary of our very first recording. Steven hit me during the film when the yellow car appeared, and that's just really not on, so I, from here on out, quit 100% and I refuse to speak for the rest of the podcast. Enjoy!
This is the Kaijusaurus Podcast, the podcast in which myself, Steven Sloss, a lifelong fan of Godzilla and Kaiju films, watches and reviews all 30 films in the Godzilla canon with my girlfriend and newbie, Laura. Hi, Laura.
Hello. You're just jealous.
Are you participating now, Ross?
What if I
Apologise formally on air.
I'm sorry that I knuckle punched you during Godzilla vs. Megalon
When the yellow car appeared.
when the yellow car appeared on screen.
I apologise for ever doing that to anyone.
I don't know if anyone out there plays the yellow car game, or if it's even a thing outside of Scotland.
Maybe it's a thing that people that are watching the podcast can do if they're going to watch the episode again. Is if you're watching it with or watching the movie
you
again.
mean listening?
Listening.
Oh.
No.
Well, I mean, if they're watching the actual movie Godzilla vs. Megalon, if you see the yellow car, you hit someone.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to.
It's a thing, you know. It's a thing here at least. When you see a yellow car, they're perceived as so rare and so few and far between that when you see a yellow car, you shout "yellow car" and you punch someone like this.
Oh! Right, I quit again. Okay, should we be serious now?
Let's be serious now. We've done the podcast.
We've done the
intro.
funny bit.
We've done the funny.
Now we can be deadly serious.
But yeah, a year today marks the first anniversary of the Kaijusaurus Podcast. Our first episode went up on the 7th of July 2015, and that was our pilot episode where we reviewed the first episode of Spider-Man. And here we are. And like I said on the Facebook page and on the blog, we've recorded 16 full episodes since, and that's about 16 more than I ever expected us to record. So
16 plus wonderful hours of conversation, lighthearted banter, and film criticism.
So how are we all today? Joining me in Kaijusaurus Podcast HQ, I've got Ross, my usual...
You're hosting me today, are you?
Also,
Pardon
HQ, this is just our living room.
In Kaijusaurus Podcast HQ, Ross and I have got Laura.
Laura.
Hey.
Hi, Laura.
Hello.
How was your day today, Laura?
It was okay.
You had
Was at work, yeah. For most of it.
Same here, buddy. I actually wasn't at work.
I got
Why did you say same here?
I don't know.
I got a haircut today.
It is a nice haircut. For those of you who can't see Steven's hair, he's got a little bit of like a buzz-shaved hair thing going on around like the back of his head and just above his ears, and then the top is much more like a wave.
It's Lynchian.
It's Lynchian. It's very David. It's like a young Lynch. So there you go. Google a young Lynch, young David Lynch, and
Do you know what? Your hair could actually also be young Stalin.
young Stalin as well. It's true.
I'd rather David Lynch, but that's okay. Young Stalin is a cutie.
See,
He is a bit of a cutie.
Kind of a
I also got some pounds converted into dollars because a week today I'm going to G-Fest.
Oh yeah, make the official, or not even announcement, but State of the Union. Get people hyped.
A week today I'm going to G-Fest.
What are you going to be doing there?
hanging out.
Seeing everyone there.
Seeing everyone being present.
And I tell you what.
Godzilla.
Will you be updating people on the Tumblr about your whereabouts and movements and stuff, or
I guess.
would you rather keep to yourself
and
walk amongst?
I don't want to be mobbed, Ross.
Walk amongst the fans.
I'll tell you what though, getting my pounds converted into dollars today. Have you seen the fucking state of the exchange rate now?
It's pretty dreadful.
This is our
for
first.
some reason.
This is our first post-Brexit podcast.
And things are very different. That's why I quit. I'm quitting again because of that. I quit.
So yeah,
right.
Brexit.
That's us done.
Money.
That's us
G-Fests.
Yeah, that's us done.
Personal life.
2 rounds of banter, a bit of personal life chat, the G-Fest update,
G-Fest.
the anniversary memo. I think now, and we've introduced Laura.
Are you satisfied with this part of the podcast, Laura?
Do you have anything
Are you
you'd
done?
like to add?
Are you done?
I don't feel that I need to add anything.
Cool.
Right, well, let's dive in.
Today we are reviewing.
What's the film?
Having just watched it, 1973's Godzilla vs. Megalon, Gojira Tai Megaro.
Who directed it?
Jun Fukuda.
Who produced it?
Tomoyuki Tanaka.
Classic.
Shinichi Sekizawa wrote it, and he's really scraping the bottom of the proverbial barrel here. I think I said to you at the end of the last episode, Ross, where we watched Godzilla vs. Gigan, and I think
Sorry, my watch just beeped. I'm going to remove it and throw it over the other side of the
I
room.
think I said at the end of the last one with you, Ross, Godzilla vs. Gigan, and I think you know this already, Laura, is that Godzilla vs. Megalon is generally considered to be the very worst Godzilla film of the lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
It is, yeah.
When last week I said that maybe I won't find a Godzilla film that I really truly hate, we might be fine. That might be true. Because if that was the worst, then that wasn't half as bad as I was expecting, at least.
Well, I mean, there we go. And Laura, this is your favourite, right?
This is my favourite. I love this film.
I think, considering this film's reputation, though, it's important to, as we always do on these, or as we always try and do on these shows, to understand the film we're talking about within its cultural context at the time in Japan.
Yes.
In the time it was produced. So, in the early 1970s in the Japanese film industry, we're 1973 now, Japanese film industry is at an all-time low. TV is stealing a lot of its audience. TV superheroes like Ultraman are at sort of peak popularity, stealing away the audiences of giant monster movies. You know, gone are the days where studios like Toho and Daiei and Toei and Nakatsu and Shichoku would all compete with their own monster movies. Godzilla vs. Megalon is the only kaiju film made in 1973. And that was a far cry from the glory days of the 60s when you'd have multiple kaiju films in one year. To put it into a further sort of context within Toho itself, Godzilla was the only one of Toho's many franchises that actually survived into the 70s.
Okay.
And that even then it was kind of on life support. By this point, the Gamera series had ended over at Daiei when they went bankrupt after 1971's Gamera vs. Zegara. And as I said, TV is stealing away a lot of Godzilla's audience. Because why go to the cinema, which is an extra expense, to see giant monsters when you can see them for nothing on TV?
Yeah, exactly.
So, this is where we're at with Godzilla vs. Megalon. So this is it's a film made out of desperation, and the sense of desperation, I think, is very evident in the final product. It's a really minimal film. There's just not a whole lot going on and a whole lot to it, and it's a very odd film as well. Let's jump in with initial comments, thoughts, etc.
I'll dive in first. So, yeah, I was basically saying that was, at least for me, not half as bad as sort of I've been led to believe, or not led to believe, but just...
As you fear.
Yeah, you hear that a film is considered the absolute worst in the series, and you have to think about what that's going to be like. But at the same time, I know that because I am not like I don't actually come from that background of being a kaiju fan. I think just I have a different expectation of like what a bad film is.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so I actually enjoyed that quite a bit, and I think I liked that more than the last one, which was Godzilla vs. Gigan. And of that same one, I felt that was quite, not even mediocre, but just a fairly like solidly nothing kind of film, an average.
Yeah, you described it as slight last
slight,
time.
yeah, just fine. Enjoyed it just fine. I actually quite enjoyed Godzilla vs. Megalon, and I'll explain more about it, but I found that it was so bare bones and stuck so closely to like a classic Godzilla formula that I somehow actually appreciated it a lot on that level. I felt like it almost like started to deconstruct it a bit by about just how close to the bone all these plot points were.
Yeah, you're right. It is almost the classic Godzilla formula, stripped to its absolute most bare.
Mm-hmm. But I have many different points to make. There was a lot that I liked. I actually felt that between maybe this film and the last film, that in a lot of ways are simply just, get to the monster fight. Let's get to the monster fight.
Yeah.
I felt this monster fight was 1,000 times better. Whereas the last one in Godzilla vs. Gigan, if I'm right, we actually were using a lot of...
A shit ton of stock footage.
Yeah. This one, in the fights themselves, not a lot of stock footage.
No, there wasn't in the fights.
I loved the fights, actually very creative and very different physical fights than what we'd seen. So I'll talk about that more later on and why I appreciated it, but that was something I took away, that I actually really enjoyed the monster fights. In fact, this might actually be one of my favourite monster fights in the movie so far.
I think because it's the most fun.
Yeah, it's the most fun, and there's actually like a wee bit of fun here. Also, I'll talk more about how much I fucking love Jet Jaguar. Great. Yes. But anyway, Laura, what did you think?
Let's hear from you.
as I've said, I really like this film. I think it's really fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously, where it really, really could be in danger of doing so.
Yeah.
And it's like you're thrown into this pre-established world. It's not as if they build up to why is Jet Jaguar made? What's his purpose? There's not a whole lot of exposition dumps. That said, there's a whole lot of car chases that lead to nothing essentially.
And they're thrilling.
They are thrilling.
And stairs.
Lots of stairs.
There are many shots of these characters going up and down the stairs to that weird ass house.
Yeah, that really strange cubic house.
That's Kaijusaurus Podcast HQ.
Yeah, no, that's where we are right now.
That would be amazing.
That
with the
would be
dangling cubes.
Clubhouse.
Yeah.
That's the next Kickstarter, guys. Help us afford that clubhouse.
Actually, someone found it.
Oh, really?
I'll put a link in the show notes. But
No, read the link out
Okay.
loud.
Type it into your browser as I recite it. A kaiju blogger who lives in Japan just found that house, the house that was used for the exterior.
That's great.
That's fun. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes, guys.
In the show notes.
Okay, so to get things back on track, the film takes place in the year 1970X. We're told that at the start. Nuclear tests are taking place. The second underground nuclear test is taking place somewhere in the Pacific or the Atlantic or somewhere.
Pacific.
It's the Pacific, yeah.
Somewhere
And
in
to
the
be
exotic
specific,
near.
somewhere in the world. Shut up.
Somewhere that isn't the West.
Exactly. And so the effects of these tests are reaching even far off Monster Island, where we get, a sort of stock footage curtain call of Godzilla and Rodan and Anguirus, and they're all being affected by the fallout of nuclear tests. What they're actually being affected by is the Kilak gas from Destroy All Monsters, but repurposed footage, it's Toho
It's fine. We didn't notice.
Exactly.
It's fine.
They're good at that
You
by
noticed,
now.
and you felt it quite deeply. For the unassuming non-viewer,
It cut me to my core, if I'm honest.
I loved it.
So yeah, and amongst the stock footage, we briefly get some new footage of Godzilla and Anguirus trying to escape this cataclysmic event, and Anguirus then just sort of falls into a deep chasm,
Never to be seen again.
Godzilla turns around and looks a bit
a bit freaked out.
Yeah, and
He's having a wee tiff.
and turns around and roars the title card onto the screen. From then on, we learn that the underground,
Seatopians.
below surface dwellers, the Seatopians, are mighty pissed. We surface dwellers for what we're doing to the Earth. So they send their god/bodyguard monster
thing.
Megalon up to the surface world to wreak havoc. Meanwhile, they are also sending a couple of their agents to the house of our three intrepid heroes to steal Goro's invention, Jet Jaguar, because the Seatopians need a race of robots.
Exactly.
And so if they can steal Jet Jaguar, they can.
Wait, is that it?
That's
why they steal.
That's
Jet
it. Yeah.
I just thought they needed him for general handiwork. That he was
yeah.
having extra pair of hands to
thought-
bash
yeah.
people about.
I thought he was just there.
I thought, that he could
I thought he was just kind of oh, this is pretty cool. Let's go up and steal him. I didn't realise that's
Not
why.
that I'm getting defensive, right? But the brief of this podcast is a lifelong kaiju fan watches all the films with a newbie. Who do we trust more on this issue?
Me and Ross,
because we've experienced it for the first time with no biases.
Right. You got me there.
Okay.
Because they need a race of robots
yeah.
for some...
So you claim.
For some nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
And from then on, the Seatopians, they do a lot of things. They control Jet Jaguar alternately.
They send their spies up.
They send their spies.
They kidnap Goro and
Roku-chan.
Roku-chan.
And all these events take certain turns, and Megalon ends up no longer being under Seatopian control and goes a bit mental.
Whoopee.
A bit whoopee. A bit Goldberg.
He goes on his own journey.
Exactly. And so...
He finds himself at the end.
Our heroes find themselves back in control of Jet Jaguar, and they send Jet Jaguar off to Monster Island to go and fetch Godzilla to come back and kick Megalon's arse. Mm-hmm. But the Seatopians get wind of this, and they contact their buddies, the Nebula M space hunter aliens, and ask them to borrow Gigan, which they're allowed to do. So Gigan, Megalon, Jet Jaguar, and Godzilla all converge. It's a giant monster tag team Royal Rumble.
2v2.
Exactly. And by this point, we should probably mention that Jet Jaguar has grown to kaiju proportions due to his own determination.
Yeah, through the sheer power of will.
Yeah.
Because he really wanted it.
Exactly.
And if you want something hard enough, ladies and gentlemen, you can get it.
I wish the same thing would happen to me because I'm only 5 feet.
Who else is 5 feet, Laura?
Danny DeVito.
Are you proud to...
Who would play me in a film?
Oh, God.
I hope.
Are you proud to share your measurements with Danny DeVito?
Yes.
Good.
153 centimetre club. Woo!
Giant Danny DeVito.
Giant Danny DeVito.
Yes. I need that in my life.
So, Godzilla versus Megalon. It obviously ends, Godzilla and Jet Jaguar drive off the invading monsters. They send Gigan with his tail between his legs, flying back off into space to fight another day. And Megalon descends back to Seatopia, and the Seatopians seal off all their surface exits and entrances, etc. And that's
it.
Equilibrium is restored.
Exactly.
In the classic Hollywood narrative.
Jet Jaguar returns
And
to his beloved family, and they walk off into the sunset.
Where he looks so upset to be with them.
Accompanied by a beautiful song. But we'll get to that. We'll play it later.
We'll sing it later.
So, yeah, Godzilla versus Megalon. That's that. Like we said earlier, very generally regarded as among the worst, if not the worst, Godzilla films. I mean, I can separate in my head what I consider to be good films and films that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And I can totally recognise that Godzilla vs. Megalon is by no means a well-made film. It was a really hastily rushed production. I remember reading at some point.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember where I read this, but the film was shot in 3 weeks.
Wow.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's pretty punchy.
Uh-huh.
Shinichi Sekizawa, who in the past was greats like Invasion of Astro Monster and Ebirah Horror's Deep, like really fun, full screenplays and that. This is, like we said earlier, this is really like stripped back. It's really, really bare bones. There's
not much to it.
There's a lot of extended sequences that we could just take out and that would have little to no impact on the plot. Like even that you could easily just cut out 10 minutes from this film by cutting out scenes of characters going from places.
Yeah, exactly. Or running up and down those stairs.
Exactly, yeah.
Those stairs.
And like the screenplay is so bizarre because like I think the best example of how drawn out the screenplay is that they keep going back and forward to the house.
Yeah.
They keep going back and forward, back and forward.
And we keep seeing this. Like it's not like we know that they're going back. We keep seeing them literally go back.
Yeah, we keep being shown it. We're shown their journey to and from it each time.
You should make a gift set of that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll make a gift set of each time they go up and down the stairs and post it on the blog. But what I was going to say is the best example of how weird and drawn out this screenplay is that Roku-chan and the boy racer, they are going to go back to the house and they're going to attack this Seatopian agent who has since occupied the house, and they're going to get Jaguar back in control. How do they do this? Okay, by this point, everyone's been evacuated, so they go into town. It's deserted. They go into a model toy shop.
We get a scene in there.
Yeah, we get a scene in there. They have a look around. Oh, I guess everyone evacuated. We'll just have to take one and pay for it later. So Roku-chan chooses a model aeroplane. Then they go back. They hide outside of the door of the house that's going upstairs. Roku-chan crouches, hides, and the racer character, are you ready? Yeah, let's do it. Throws a rock at the security camera. Then Oscar Wilde, Seatopian agent, is like, what's that? Brings out his gun and then looks out. Then Roku-chan throws the model aeroplane at his face,
bursts open his eyes.
Yeah, breaking
we're
his
safe to
fucking
assume.
nose, and like, couldn't we just had that whole scene as 30 seconds with the racer like clubbing him over the head with a rock?
Nah, but we needed that plane shot because honestly, that plane shot was fantastic.
Even just a plane. I mean, it's not so hard to believe that a young boy would have a plane.
Like
He
Like
just
a
throws it
toy
in.
plane.
Or like, yeah, he just has a toy plane. You wouldn't have to go and see them go to
We
the
don't-
toy shop. And
Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't
totally.
need to see them. Yeah, we just don't.
we don't need to
that.
see every step of their master plan.
No, they don't.
To throw a plane at someone's face.
But I think that's what it comes down to. I think that because this is really like a bare bones kaiju movie where there isn't much beyond the big monster fight at the end, and it is just a sort of rehash of the old classic pissed off alien or otherwise race
Yeah.
sicking a monster on the earth, and our scientists, human characters, kind of getting involved or caught up in the crossfire.
Yeah.
Those extended sequences just come from not having much else to do, and they are, because of that, just on their own, very strange and very, very funny.
You're right. There's a really strange vibe around this whole film, and I'd be interested to see what you used to think of what I'm going to say. Because what I've always gotten from this film is that I don't think it was intentional, but it's like these guys live in a really, really, really quiet neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like the film's budget is so impoverished that it seems like they couldn't afford any fucking extras.
For a long time, I had written in my
there's-
notes, for a long time I had written that I thought there was only going to be 3 human characters that you meet.
Yeah.
You really don't have anyone else. Is there any other
There-
people with speaking lines?
There's no one like hugely significant.
Apart from the
There's
van
our
drivers.
3 protagonists. There's the 2 Seatopian agents. There's the head Seatopian. There's the 2 van drivers, and there is one army guy.
But
who has
that might be
dialogue.
old footage, isn't it?
No, I mind.
Oh, that's not
Goro
new.
speaks to him. He
Right.
says, "Oh, we can get control of Jet
You're
Jaguar."
right.
But even then, it's like these are like brief and few and far between. It's like all the footage for example, of like citizens evacuating is taken from older films.
Yeah, totally.
And it's just weird because you never really. I think you said this during the film, Laura.
Yeah, I said this.
You never really get a sense of.
Scale.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
really
or
don't.
danger.
Like when you see the planes attacking them, I always forget about that part because, like, it just doesn't seem to have that large a scale. It almost seems like a bit of a secret. Like, oh, by the way, Megara's, that's not his name.
Megalon.
Megalon's here. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's like
it just doesn't seem like a sort of, oh my god.
yeah, it's weird. It's like it takes place in like the outskirts of a city.
Yeah, it's
or,
the
like-
countryside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No one's really in danger. There's a little
And,
bit
like-
less of a rush.
If I'm honest, I feel like with their impoverished kind of like funding, I really feel like if they played that to their strengths, it would have worked.
Well,
Like, see, Gamera. Which one's the one where they do it in MST 3K, Tibby?
that's the first camera.
Yeah, I mean, they play that to the strengths. I know he goes to the city eventually, but
Yeah.
you could play it in the fact that, like, he's just sort of showed up.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, that's a good comparison, actually, Ross. To contextualise a little bit,
Sorry.
the original Gamera film, a lot of that does sort of take place in sort of rural.
Is it a beach kind of town sort of thing?
Yeah, it's
Quiet beach community.
Yeah, like like a lot of it takes place around a lighthouse community,
Uh-huh.
and like that's fun. And then it moves into the city later in the film, and that does that sort of thing well. Whereas this, Godzilla vs Megalon does not do a good job of making us believe there's anything really like huge stake here. Like when Megalon, oh, it's running wild now. It's literally just jumping around the countryside.
Yeah. What I will say though, there's one shot that I thought was fantastic that actually really did give me the scale of how big Megalon was.
Okay, are we going to talk about the dam sequence now?
No, it wasn't
Oh,
that.
Okay.
It was when Jet Jaguar first grows in height for the very first time.
Uh-huh.
The camera rises up with him. You get
Oh,
bigger and bigger
yeah.
with him.
Yes,
You start
that's a
very,
really
very
cool
small
shot.
and you get to... it's almost like a point of view shot.
Yeah,
You start
yeah.
very, very small and grow to the size of
Yeah.
Megalon. That shot in particular
That was nice,
did
yeah.
actually make me feel, I have an understanding of how big this monster is. I will agree, though, that generally it is just Megalon bumming around the countryside.
Yeah.
We see buildings and cities getting destroyed, but we're so far
Removed.
geographically removed. Typically, we're told, we're in Tokyo, or we're on a village on the east side of the country, or
Yeah,
in
exactly,
the islands.
exactly.
I have no idea where we are in Japan.
Yeah,
There's some
yeah, exactly.
fields, there's a town. It's almost like just a very generic, placeless thing that works for what it is, but just means that there's again just that little bit less realism, that little bit less care, essentially.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what I brought up there. The dam
dam
sequence. Like,
The damn
'cause-
sequence.
I think we all have something to say about this scene. It's just it's weird because the sequence.
That's where it's playing to its strength.
Yeah, you're totally right. The dam sequence, the destruction of the dam when Megalon breaks through it and the water destroys the rest of it, and that scene is so well shot.
Totally.
That it sticks out like a sore thumb, like compared to the rest of the film.
Yeah.
The sense of scale achieved in that scene is wonderful. Megalon looks like what it's meant to be, a giant fucking monster.
Totally.
And like the entire set, the entire miniature set of the dam and the cliffside and the roadside overlooking it is perfect. It's an absolute perfect match for what we see as the real world location.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's a good sequence.
Yes, the blend of the miniature special effects sequences and the live action sequences with our human characters on the roadside overlooking the special effects sequences is absolutely fucking seamless.
And there's that tension. Is the racer going to rescue Goro and Child?
Yeah.
And like even the little truck looks so similar.
Yeah, the model work is so good.
It's a perfect match, and that, like when Megalon breaks through the dam and this
really
huge
cool.
rush of water and rubble comes through, and it's excuse me, and it's shot so excuse me, it's shot so well that it almost juxtaposes with the rest of the film.
Yeah, because immediately the climax, the culmination of that sequence is that the container containing our two characters is going to fall, it's tipping, and then it falls. And my heart sunk because I was so involved in that sequence. I actually was really engaged with it. I was like, oh my god, it's fallen. What are they going to do here? But then it immediately gets silly because Megalon bashes it away.
Yeah.
It flies into the air and it just crashes down elsewhere and they just crawl out a little bit scathed.
Yeah.
And then, like, the best sequence of the film like that is suddenly off.
It's brought back to its kind of...
It's silly and weak.
Exactly, we're brought back to the rest of the film. And I did this a lot in the previous episode, Godzilla vs. Gigan, where I prefaced a lot of my negativity with the fact that I do actually like the film. And I like Godzilla vs. Megalon.
Me too.
I really hate to use the sort of phrase, so bad it's good, or like a good bad movie, because I find that's just weirdly condescending and derogatory and stupid. But like I said earlier, I can differentiate in my mind between films that I think are good films and films that I enjoy. I enjoy Godzilla vs. Megalon. I don't think it's a technically well-made film.
No.
But I enjoy the heck out of it.
Right. No, I agree. Because basically I like it for a number of reasons. Always Jun Fukuda. His costumes, his sets, the way he designs characters. Again, those two henchmen. In some of the other Godzilla movies we've had, the henchmen sort of tend to wear the same clothes, look very generic.
Yeah.
His henchmen, his characters, always dress so interestingly. We have those two, what we call them?
The Seatopian agents, they kind of dress almost kind of maybe middle or Eastern European-y. Like,
yeah.
It's...
And one looks like Oscar Wilde, and the other has that big, intimidating beard.
Yeah.
And they look so cool.
Yeah.
All the Jin Fukuda characters have great costumes, look absolutely beautiful.
And we have the head of the Seatopians in his wonderful white
robe, sheer robe.
And his massively hairy chest.
Oh, beautifully hairy. I just wanted to run a hand through it.
Played by Robert Dunham.
Who is Robert Dunham? Tell me about him. Nothing special.
American actor who lived in Japan.
That was it.
Just pretty
well,
much.
Good for you, Robert.
He was in a film in 1964 called Dogoro the Space Monster, where he played an American sort of con man called Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson.
And they were going to make a series of spin-offs about that character, but they didn't.
But they never did.
I mean, there we go.
I think how I can sum up how I feel about this is that I think it's the perfect generic Godzilla movie.
That's fair, yeah.
I actually did like it more than Godzilla vs. Gigan.
Uh-huh.
I consider them quite similar. This movie didn't fault too much for me. I didn't consider this like too much of a sinful movie or like too sort of appalling.
Yeah.
I felt like it was just sort of like pleasantly generic. And even its use of stock footage, or not stock footage, but previous footage from Godzilla films, which we sort of talked about last time and were quite disappointed in Godzilla vs. Gigan.
That's right.
And I even said in that film that I think there is ways to use stock footage or footage from previous films to good effect.
Yeah.
I think used to great effect here.
Well,
yeah, I think they're used much better here.
Yeah, I think they just keep it to the military stuff. The models.
Exactly. I agree with you both, because obviously you two will pick up on it less than I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could recognise every single bit of footage that was from a previous film in that. But you're right, it's kept to an absolute minimal when it comes to the monsters, which is absolutely
So
how
important.
it should
Yeah.
be.
It's a monster movie. You can't half-ass the monster scenes. You can half-ass the military. You can half-ass the human stuff, but you cannot half-ass the monster stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think for all its maybe faults of weak kind of silly plotting and kind of boring alien stuff or under the ground aliens, the monster fights in this movie are stellar to me. I really liked Godzilla versus Megalon / Jet Jaguar versus Gigan.
Well, that's a great opportunity to talk Jet Jaguar.
Yeah, just talk
Who
the
wants
monsters
to
in
talk
general.
Jet Jaguar?
I do. I love Jet Jaguar. I can't remember if I've told this story or not, but so when me and Steven first started going out a whole 8 years ago.
Oh,
Happy anniversary, guys!
Thanks. Basically, Steven's room was like the size of a car. It was tiny, and he had this big collection of DVDs, which I'm sure you've seen. And the cover of Godzilla versus Megalon always stuck out because it just has Jet Jaguar's stupid face on the side.
Grinning wee face.
And I always wanted to see it, and I always wanted to know what it was, because it just, even the cover doesn't answer any more questions. And watching the film has raised more questions than answered.
Wait.
And I've just always kind of had some sort of affinity. I love the design. Like, he's not slick at all. It's not a slick design. And I was only first aware of this a few months ago. It is a child that designed it.
yeah. I was gonna say,
Okay.
who wants some who wants some Jet Jaguar trivia?
I need to know this.
Yeah, like, it's just a fun looking thing. And it looks permanently bored and unimpressed.
No,
which
I
is
was
also
gonna
funny.
ask. I was confused the entire time. I can't tell if it's a happy expression or if it's
It's
like
just kinda-
deeply pained. I couldn't tell.
It's a bit of both.
He looks like a toned Michelin man.
He does. Yeah, like the Michelin Man's beefy brother,
But yeah,
slimmed brother.
Jet Jaguar trivia.
Right.
Between Godzilla vs. Gigan and Godzilla vs. Megalon, Toho holds a competition for kids. You know, create a monster and we'll make a movie of it. The winning entry was a monster called Red Alone, which became Jet Jaguar.
Yeah.
Red Alone basically looked like Jet Jaguar in design, but it was actually a monster. It had wings and claws and a sort of beaked head, but it still had the sort of yellow, blue, red, silver colour scheme and the sort of weird Michelin Man Stay Puft Marshmallow.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
He's got that puffy body.
Yeah, and I'll put a picture on the blog. But, apparently Toho built the suit or made some concept renderings and the kid wasn't happy about it. Like, the kid didn't...
The kid is, I imagine he's still there like, no, change it. No, I'm not happy.
The kid didn't like it. So, the film was going to be Jet Jaguar versus Megalon. You know, for Toho to have their own hero, to rival the small screen success of Ultraman.
Yeah, that I was going to ask is...
That's really clear.
That's
so
that's
obvious.
painfully obvious, isn't it? Yeah. Like, Jet Jaguar is not like an Ultraman clone in...
how he does,
like,
or what he does, or how he operates.
Yeah, visually, or like in terms of what he physically is within the story, but the purpose he serves is absolutely that of an Ultraman clone,
Right.
like an Ultraman insert. Like Jet Jaguar is a robot made by humans who can grow big and small at his own will. Ultraman is an alien who is a sentient being and merges with a human and transforms, etc. But like the role they play in the story is absolutely to have, you know, a fucking giant superhero for kids to root for.
Yeah.
So the film was going to be Jet Jaguar versus Megalon. Godzilla was added to add box office value
And bring it into the
and
franchise.
like Gigan was brought in as well because he was popular from the last film. So it became Godzilla versus Megalon.
Jet Jaguar is such a funny wee creature. I was just in total amusement from the very first time you see him in the background. Even the way he flies so slowly. The way that he turns is amazing. He takes such long, like impossible turns. he doesn't actually physically move. He's just fully straight, but the sort of like model is just turned round, like a really bad U-turn, and he flies so slowly. I like the character. I like imagining it not from his perspective, but you're right that it makes sense that the film was originally his movie, that he was originally the title character, because it's clear he's of much more importance than Godzilla. It sort of is his fight. He ropes in Godzilla, he asks for Godzilla's help, but at the end of the day, he was the one that was sort of tasked with fighting
Megalon. Like, you're right, Godzilla doesn't even meet Megalon until he has to physically fight him.
He just heard about him. He was just like, sure, I'll help.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, again, I'm sorry, it brings it back to what I said, like, play to the smaller strength. Play to your strengths.
Yeah. Embrace the smaller budget, yeah.
You know, it's Jet Jaguar's fight, but you're getting Godzilla in. Like, I'm sorry, I mean, even just look at Marvel films. I mean, Iron Man doesn't fight the biggest baddie in the whole world. Like, with, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, they save that for the Avengers films.
Yeah, they save it for later, and, you know, and usually they don't take place in a city. Yeah. Or, like, everyone just happens to be unavailable at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because they don't have that kind of storyline. I just feel like they really could have played to their strengths and just had such a smaller scale.
Like, this film either would have been 10 times worse or 10 times better if it was just Jet Jaguar versus Megalon.
Yeah, because, again, coming back to that fight, and I think, I said earlier that I think this is one of the fights that I have enjoyed most, and I think that's the way to preface it. Perhaps I won't say that it's one of the better fights technically, or how it sort of evolves organically through the story, but in terms of actually just watching it, I really like this one because it is so physical. I think some of the past Godzilla fights have been a bit more standoffish. Godzilla's been much further away, shooting lasers, throwing rocks, batting things away. But this feels, like we said, like a wrestling match. It's like a 2v2 wrestling match. They're down on the ground, in each other's arms, grappling, punching, fighting each other, throwing each other to the ground, constantly butting heads against each other. And because really all this film has going for it is the fight scenes. They may as well go for some big, nice, good fight scenes.
No, well, exactly. And I think you mentioned while watching the film, Laura, or maybe earlier in the podcast, I can't remember, that there is a lengthy final fight.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
For better or for worse, it is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't get us wrong, they do chuck in the variety. We get Godzilla and Jet Jaguar are caught in a burning ring of fire.
Yeah, they get pushed back to back.
And, like, suddenly Godzilla is like, scared by fire.
Yeah, exactly. That's new.
I'm sorry, but when Jet Jaguar like flies them both out, it is just so funny. It's like someone's just picked them up and went.
Just picked them and pulled them away. Totally.
I realised as I did that action, no one can see it.
Yeah, we're on radio, Laura. We're not in.
Well, we're not on radio.
It's an audio medium.
We'll draw a picture of it and we can put it on.
I'll make a GIF.
But the whole fight, it had it because it was very physical and very fist fighty, very wrestly, grapply. It did have a different energy. Is this a new Godzilla suit,
Yes.
Steven? I really like this Godzilla suit.
I like this.
Yeah.
It was really energetic. Godzilla was like jumping around, hopping around in a way
new
that
suit actor.
Yeah, exactly. New suit actor as well. In a way that sometimes Godzilla, when it's maybe not been the best, has been very slow, sluggish, kind of gross, collapsing suit. This felt like a very nice, fresh suit and a very fresh, energetic Godzilla, which I liked. And I think that lent to that just way that I really enjoyed the fight. I like the way that he even psychs up before he starts to fight. He walks towards it with his arms in the air, like sort of huffing and going, right, let's do this.
Got the swagger on.
And I think it's a well shot fight as well. I think generally the film is well shot. So that lends a lot to it as well. The characterization there of the two monsters, or the two sets of monsters, is great. They're teammates. It's like a proper wrestling outfit.
Yeah, exactly. Like we even get a scene like tangent. How great like a monster tag team are just Gigan and Megalon. Like they are great together.
They're two great villains.
Yeah, I think Gigan and Megalon are a much more satisfying pairing than Gigan and King Ghidorah in the previous
totally. Because
like,
King Ghidorah needs to be his own thing.
Fine, yeah. But
King Ghidorah, he kind of needs to be himself.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
kind of like the main villain.
he's a big enough threat.
Yeah.
Because he's like an unstoppable creature of the deep dimension.
Yeah.
Whereas these guys are just...
These two seem like the kind of
can't
two
even remember
losers.
where they're from.
They're just fucking
They just
space
seem like
pricks.
losers.
dorks.
Yeah. Now,
And like they did that fun scene where they kind of bash their claws together.
Yeah.
It's like a monster brofist.
well, no, they have a little handshake, like a little
Yeah,
slappy
exactly, yeah,
handshake,
yeah.
and then so does Godzilla and Jet
Yeah,
Jaguar.
they shake hands at the
a
end,
deep
yeah.
handshake. Now, I want to say, Megalon, on his own, annoying as shit. Together with Gigan, big fan of theirs. I felt like a bit more menaced by them when they were a team, when they were both beating on Godzilla.
Yeah,
I felt like they had some
I
strengths.
really like that when like Gigan first swoops down and like knocks Jet Jaguar on the ground, and like Gigan and Megalon are like instantly on the same team.
Yeah.
They're like instantly they would have a really fun rapport, and like they're instantly just total dickheads together.
No, they really are. Now, when there's a scene where Megalon is hopping towards...
I think he looks like a child who's just been told they cannot get that sweetie.
Yeah, he looks like a little
Ah!
impetuous, annoying creature.
Yeah.
If he had a voice, which he doesn't, thankfully, it would just be this annoying, hey guys.
Or like Laura said earlier, Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Are you ready to fight Godzilla? Just such an annoying creature.
My name's Megalon.
Megalon, are you ready to play? But yeah, no, so such a good fight. They're going for each other. They're really going for each other. The best part of that fight, it's actually very grim, is at the very end when it's clear that Godzilla and Jet Jaguar are winning, and Godzilla is sort of lifting Megalon up and slamming him towards the ground. If you pay attention, you'll notice, obviously it's just because of the suit, but Godzilla is slamming Megalon to the ground so hard that his legs are buckling forward.
Yeah, they're bending up forward.
He's snapping his legs. It's like if you were watching that on wrestling, you'd just be screaming, going, "Stop it, Godzilla!"
Yeah, John
Where's
Cena
the
keeps
ref?
doing that to someone.
Imagine that, John Cena just slamming someone against the ground. their feet going, their knee
my
forward. Like,
Should we just like re-edit it with like bone cracking sounds in it? Like,
oh my god!
Like, should we edit it with the sound effect from the film of Les Miserables when, spoiler alert, when Russell Crowe commits suicide, and there's that sort of huge crunch of bones as he hits the ground, like
Oh man!
oh fuck!
But yeah, no, like that fight alone, I thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm not always someone that loves the monster stuff, no matter what.
Yeah.
In some of the previous Godzilla movies, I've said this before, sometimes the monster stuff is sort of the least interesting part of the movie for me, and I tend to be a bit more interested in the human element. But I just like the characterization, this very, like, wrestling stable characterization for the two teams.
Yeah.
I generally prefer, I think, straight sort of physical fighting
Yeah.
to there's the occasional flying around and the occasional bit of ice blast, atomic fire,
There we go.
but not as much as there've been in previous films. And I think for me that is more interesting to see, sort of direct physical fighting.
And it's funny that you bring up the human characters, because like I said earlier, I really enjoy the cast of human characters, but I mean they're a fun bunch, not used well.
Yeah, there's not much for them to do.
Yeah.
And they don't change. Nothing happens.
Yeah, they don't.
Like, I mean, like, if you look at it essentially from their point of view, their house is robbed, they're almost killed, their project fucking flies away, and then at the end of the film, he gets them back. Like,
Yeah, and he loses his...
I just feel like that's it. Like,
Yeah.
What a weird...
They
you know
learn
what?
nothing.
What a weird
It
afternoon.
seems- yeah, exactly.
It took place all in one
And,
day,
like,
didn't it?
No, that's what it's like. It's
The time scale is so strange, because it seems like, you know when you've had those days when you go to work and you forgot your brolly and it's raining, and you know, you get to work and you forgot this, and well, this seems to happen every day to me, and like you get home and you're like, oh, that is how this whole film felt.
Yeah.
One afternoon.
Yeah, like this whole film feels like it takes place around 3:30, 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And then they go at the end of the film they go for their tea.
Yeah, exactly. They're gonna get the dinner.
Yeah, they're gonna,
Jet Jaguar will make it.
The whole film takes place in real time.
Yeah, totally.
It seems that way though.
I-
It's such a weird timescale.
Yeah,
No,
I
it
think
is,
you're
I
right,
agree.
Laura, because I think what it is that just because we don't have like particularly well developed humans and they don't do much, it just means that nothing feels that scary, nothing feels that dangerous.
Yeah.
We don't feel that much threatened, so
We're
everything
not
feels like an inconvenience.
attached.
It
Yeah.
can't feel any scarier than that. It can only get as bad as, oh, that's inconvenient.
Yeah.
Jet Jaguar's
Yes.
trying to kill us.
And it's Jet Jaguar horror movie.
Oh my god.
It's weird though because like the human elements and the monster action feel very separate. It's a far cry from, again, the glory days of the 60s when you had, you know, fucking, for example, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, where Ghidorah is blasting the countryside landscape, and that causes a landslide to fall and hit the car that's full of the gangsters and goons.
Yeah.
And then, but one of the gangsters survives, and he climbs down the mountainside, and a gunfight ensues between the bodyguard and the Princess Salno from Venus.
Right, that's
and,
right.
And the gangster on the other side. And, you know, the good guys run out of their bullets, and the villain's about to take a shot, but then, of course, the monster fight is still taking place up there, and it knocks some boulders over, and it crushes the bad guy. Like, back in the good old days,
Yeah.
the monster and human action complemented and spurred each other on.
Yeah, and there's an interplay there, which there just isn't.
Yeah, well,
Whereas
it's
this
just
was
not here.
Whereas this was just three guys watching a fight.
That's what it became at the end. Like, you would not have gotten that. And, like, well, just like I described, the situation I just described in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster is happening during the climactic final battle of that film. The humans are still doing something. Even if it's not directly tied to the monster action, it affects
They're
it.
happening both at
and,
once.
and complements it.
And it's in the same, like, moment of action.
Yeah, and even parallels it. Like, the humans have their own conflict and the monsters have their conflict. Whereas, like you said, Laura, you're absolutely right. This becomes the three of them on the mountainside, watching the monster fight, occasionally commenting. Like, oh, here comes Gigan. Whose side is he on? The monsters, of course. That's
Yeah, is that a double line?
that's the dub line, yeah.
Oh, Ross, you need to watch the dub.
I'm looking forward to the dub.
Baby Rider!
I don't know why in dub Toho films they make the kids so annoying. Like, they kind of talk like this, and they're like, I'm really annoyed with you. Like,
JJ, let's go home now, eh?
yeah, that's how they all sound.
But yeah, no, this movie, and ending with Jet Jaguar sort of shrinking to his normal size and seemingly going back to just being an everyday normal robot. It's a shame because it would have been great to get a little bit of Jet Jaguar. Maybe if this was his own film, we could have made it a movie about a robot that gains sentience and then maybe explored that concept a little bit.
Yeah.
But we don't. We don't get Jet Jaguar from his own words. He never speaks. He communicates once with Godzilla through very
Macarena.
elaborate hand gestures, essentially doing the Macarena.
Yeah.
And the best thing about that is that whenever he moves his hands in that sequence, there's a piano. Yeah, there's that piano chord that like. Whenever he moves his arms, it's really catchy. I like Jet Jaguar a lot. He like clung to me, because he's so goofy looking. He's got a weird
Yeah,
smile.
he's
He's a
so-
strange, polite
Yeah,
robot.
you love him, don't you, Laura?
I really do.
Yeah.
Steven should really put up that picture I drew a few years ago.
Oh,
Again on the
yeah,
blog.
Jaguar's Day Off.
Yeah.
I want to see that. Put that on the Tumblr.
I will get you. I'll get you it. I'll show you it.
But yeah, no, if they'd maybe taken the time to like explore that a little bit more, maybe
I feel
we'd know
like-
more about Jet Jaguar. But you can sort of just fill in whatever. He's sort of blank. You can sort of give him the personality that you want.
Well, I had this written down in my notes, and like I've seen this film a few times, and I've seen the MC3K and everything. If I'm honest, why was he made?
We never find out.
I don't really understand. Why was he made? Why was he
To
necessary?
have a butler they don't have to pay.
like,
Exactly.
why did they? Well, I found out apparently, they want a league of robots,
Yeah.
not just to have one hanging
Just
around.
hang out and do the
but, like,
chores.
They offer no explanation as to
Why
why
this-
he actually exists. Like, is he for something? Is he for like house convenience? Is he for the army? It's just so confusing because the technology looks like he's for some sort of Iron Man like esque kind of
thing.
getting into
Yeah.
scrapes and stuff, but nothing is explained.
Yeah.
You're just, it's just like, oh, our house is robbed. Oh,
yeah.
by the way, I happen to have a fucking robot in my
It's
living
weird
room.
because, yeah, like, it's when the Seatopian agents return, Jet Jaguar, when he's functioning, the door opens and he kind of bows as if to greet them. And it's like, is he just like a fucking service droid?
Yeah,
is he a fucking C-3PO?
Does no better.
Yeah.
Like, just accidentally bumped into this guy, or was that a deliberate, like headbutt?
Within the world of Godzilla vs. Megalon, would Jet Jaguar's actions be as weird as if, say, in Star Wars Episode 8, C-3PO C-3PO just becomes a crime fighter and goes, R2, I'm going to program myself to... and then just becomes massive.
I'm going to go get Godzilla.
And like just single-handedly punches the Death Star.
That would be amazing. Bashes it away.
No, but like
It
within
would
the
be a very
context of this
short
film,
film.
is it that weird?
Yeah, no, because think about this. In the very first Godzilla movie, Dr. Serizawa has created a piece of tech that becomes important for fighting the monster.
Yeah.
And we spend a very long time dwelling on the justification of using that.
Yeah, yeah.
Why did we do this? What is it for? Is there
Yeah,
any
yeah.
time that we should use this?
And then there's
What's
Jet
the consequence
Jaguar.
of this? And then Jet Jaguar is just a huge robot that can go 10 times its size.
He can do fucking everything.
And can do everything and kill people probably. And will probably get used by the
don't
military.
doubt it, yeah.
They'll probably give him a lofty amount of money, that family, to buy Jet Jaguar, and they'll use him for killing.
They'll just
They'll use him in their next war.
They'll just fucking mass...
And no one questioned
They'll
it.
just fucking mass-produce Jet Jaguar like the fucking mass-produce Evas from the end of Evangelion. But, you know, you haven't seen that.
Haven't
No.
seen that.
But, you know...
But that said, I kind of love that. I kind of love that you know nothing about
Oh
it.
no, that's
Yeah.
it.
You kind of love that you're kind of just like, here's a robot in the middle of my living room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and it comes out of fucking nowhere. Like, once the earthquake has hit at the start of the film, the racer just goes to Goro, let's hope the earthquake hasn't destroyed your robot. It's like,
You know, wait, what?
you're what? Sorry.
You're what?
It's
Mate.
almost like a kind of sitcom moment, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, let's hope not, but...
Because I think a lot of the fun is that even in a sort of weaker, lackluster kind of film, at least for me, it's that I can just fill in the blanks. We can just decide things about the characters' relationships that aren't sort of there in like the actual text. That you can sort of just read in subtext, add what you want, change dynamics, interpret Jet Jaguar as a character. Because I basically did hear C-3PO's voice in his head whenever he was doing anything, or just like a weird little accent. So I think at the very least, I have lots of fun with these movies because I have many funs because I can just fill in the blanks, make it what I want.
I think
That's
you're,
why
yeah,
I
you're
think
right.
it's just such a fun film. It's just so much fun. That said, though, there's a lot like. If I could make this film, I probably would, because I feel like there's so much you could do.
This film could be an hour long.
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, it could be like
there's
50
so much
minutes.
you
could trim.
It could be
But
so short.
I don't even mean trim. I just want to remake it, like remake.
Oh
the
yeah,
whole thing.
totally, and like but add stuff.
Yeah,
and,
Legendary Pictures Godzilla 2 is just a sort of grounded...
Oh no, I don't want
like-
a grounded.
No,
Jet Jaguar.
but what if it turns out, right, that Bryan Cranston's character had invented Jet Jaguar and he leaves it to his son?
no,
And
no.
the robot can only tell people it's their birthday. Happy birthday!
I think Bryan Cranston could just play Jet Jaguar. I think that would actually work.
Yeah,
Just imagine him
he
silver with the chin
He
and the big
programs...
smile.
He does clench his jaw a lot, Cranston,
He does.
doesn't he? But like, no, Cranston programmed Jet Jaguar with his own voice and personality.
Yes, no,
Son.
that is amazing.
But yeah, like it's I'm glad you mentioned Ross earlier, the first film and Dr. Serizawa, etc. Because more often than I should probably, I think about like an alternate world in which only the original Godzilla
Exists.
and Godzilla vs Megalon
Right.
is the franchise.
That's amazing.
Like if like that is. There's no other Godzilla films,
That's
and like
amazing.
there is still the 19-year gap between them. Like, it's just those two films.
I would appreciate that. I would love that if that was the case. I still think I could happily argue
That
for
would
this
be
film's
like, you know, like
merits.
Lost Boys, and then 20 years later, Lost Boys: The Tribe, the DVD sequel.
That's so funny.
Always bringing it back to that.
Always bringing it back to Lost Boys: The Tribe. I'm not
Always.
over it. I am over it now. I'm over
Sort
it now.
of.
There you go. But I mean, I think that always comes back to the strength of having 30 films in your film canon. It means that you can have a few, not just one stinker, but like 3 or 4 or even upwards of 7 stinkers.
You mentioned earlier that you think you enjoyed this more than Godzilla vs. Gigan. I think
Yeah.
the opposite. I think Gigan just edges this out over edges out over this for me.
Uh-huh.
How
Because
dare you.
I find the human characters a lot more fun than like the fucking Scooby-Doo gang, the Mystery Inc., and they just have a lot more to do. They have a lot more like direct involvement in the plot.
I mean, that is totally true.
There's a lot,
That's all true.
There's a much larger sense of scale in Godzilla vs. Gigan, and Laura's shaking her head at me as I say this because like she can't believe I'm portraying Godzilla vs. Megalon like this. But
You are.
like, I mean, okay, how about this? Godzilla vs. Gigan and Godzilla vs. Megalon could easily be the one film.
Oh yeah, totally.
Mash them together and combine the best elements of both. Get King Ghidorah out, get Megalon in.
Absolutely.
You know, maybe just have Jet Jaguar fucking about World Children's Land.
Yeah, exactly. I would be quite happy with that. I think there's a lot.
Yeah,
You
what
could
about
have
that?
done.
Like Jet Jaguar is being built as a sort of like robot host.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Kid's
like,
toy.
Yeah, a kid's character at World Children's Land, but during the final fight, Jet Jaguar's programmed himself to fight.
Yeah, he's like gained an inner strength that we didn't know he had.
Yeah, like smash Godzilla vs. Megalon and the Godzilla vs. Gigan together, you'd have a solid Godzilla film.
Oh,
Having
absolutely.
said that, I really enjoy them both, and I do enjoy Godzilla vs. Megalon a lot. Like I said earlier, I can easily differentiate in my head between a good film and
A film you
and a
enjoy.
film I enjoy. But you know what? A good film. What makes a good film? Technical achievement and merit, or enjoyment? Obviously, both.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy a film, I do honestly believe that if you enjoy a film, no
Then
matter
it's-
how subversively you might enjoy it, it's better than just a crap film.
Yeah, totally.
Like a film that you've just sit and been utterly bored by. Like the other day there, I rewatched King Kong Lives, and that is like a quintessential bad film. But my god, I enjoy the hell out of it so much because it's just so fucking bonkers and mental and out there, and that applies to Godzilla vs. Megalon.
Yeah, it's basically, did you enjoy the 2 hours or did you not enjoy the 2 hours?
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever you spent it doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I will say, I think what inched it for me with this film is the second car chase, where where the racer is driving, he's chasing after, or is he being chased?
He's being chased
He's
by
being
what we
chased.
assume are two Seatopian agents.
Ethiopian spies. And
Yeah,
he,
but the bike comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
their bike gets involved as well. He drives down the road, through the woods. Okay, we're going through the woods. Then down the stairs.
Yeah.
Down these sort of woodland steps, and then it goes.
And you think, oh, that's the level of highness and ridiculous it's gonna get.
Yeah, but nope.
But
and
no.
they go really slowly down the stairs as well. It's a very high
Yeah,
intensity thud, thud, thud down the stairs. There's 2 sets. Then we go down a hill. We
Yeah,
go down a
exactly.
slight hill. Then we go down a cliff
Yeah, it's fucking quarry.
and then into a quarry.
Yeah.
And then to top it all off, the biker gets a comedy fall into cement.
Yeah.
Womp. There's even a womp womp womp.
Yeah. Wah, 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 wah. I thought as a kid watching this that our hero is being chased by a Seatopian agent in the car, and then just a police officer on
Yeah,
patrol
that
on a
would make
bike
sense.
is on the motorbike and chases them. But there's nothing really to suggest that.
No, it's just a stranger. Maybe it's just someone that just wanted to get
Wanted to
involved in
join
this attack on this individual
But,
person.
I find that one bit looks like. Have you ever seen the film? And again, this is another one of my favorite films that I'm aware is not a very good film,
Yes.
which is Hot Rod.
Oh yes.
I've never
Um,
seen Hot Rod.
Hot Rod. There's a part where Rod, played by Andy
Andy
Samberg,
Samberg.
Is it Hot Rod?
trips over and falls down like a hill for at least a minute with many stunt doubles in many different locations, and it's really funny. And
Actually,
that's what,
that is like
that's
the scene.
what
Yeah.
the scene always reminds
She come
me
out in
of
a
just
random
this,
place.
Just this scene that you think, oh,
It
it,
just
can't top
keeps
itself, but it
going.
keeps
Yeah.
going and going and going.
That is so
I
funny.
highly recommend the film.
But yeah, I think it just throws a lot of shit out there, and for me, a lot of it sticks.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a wildly entertaining film as
Yeah.
Godzilla vs. Megalon, and it's weird because like this is one of the most well-known Godzilla films in the United States.
Well known for being shit.
Not just actually well known.
Yeah.
It was released in America in 1977, and it was given like a really fucking big publicity
Really?
drive for
Just trying to get it back.
Yeah, I don't know, for some weird reason. And like the American poster artwork for this film has Godzilla and Megalon squaring off, each standing on one of the twin towers.
Right.
Like to
Oh, yeah, you showed me
to
that.
ape the King
I
Kong
get it.
remake,
Yeah, totally.
which had King Kong on top of the World Trade Centers. And this film actually wasn't like a big fucking huge event film in America, but it was the biggest
Did okay.
Godzilla film of that sort of period in America. And like it's so strange. Like, it actually got like good reviews in America.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know.
It's almost like inoffensive.
If
it's too good, they wouldn't like
but
it.
It's weird if you read some of the reviews. Sorry, there's a weird air of bribery around them.
Right? Okay. Okay.
Like, I don't want to be that guy, but like they praise it too much.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, maybe we've been bribed as well. Yeah. We sure do praise it.
But do you get what I mean?
No, I mean, yeah,
I
I can certainly believe that.
Toho.
That's so funny.
The film aired on TV in the late 70s, and it was hosted in segments by John Belushi in a Godzilla set.
Oh wow!
Which is really...
Is that the good one?
That's the good one. It's the dead one. That's the dead one, right? Yeah, John Belushi's the dead
Yeah,
one.
John Belushi's the dead one.
American.
Jim Belushi's in Twin Peaks season 3.
That's weird, isn't it?
Isn't that weird? Who knows? Are we about ready to wrap up?
Yeah,
here?
I think we're absolutely ready to wrap up.
Soon.
Does anyone have any closing out remarks, comments, anything that any of us didn't get to mention in the natural flow of the conversation?
Here's something that I wrote down. In the fight, like at the end, Godzilla and Jet Jaguar fight dirty.
Yeah, exactly.
Fight
We were
dirty.
saying that.
Is this a good opportunity to bring up the tail slide?
This is a definitely
Oh,
good
absolutely.
opportunity because I just put Godzilla tail thing. Well, I kept spelling his name wrong, so I spelled Godzilla tail.
Godzilla?
Godzilla. What was the tail slide again?
The tail slide at the very end.
Oh yeah, when he grabs, that's such a wrestler thing to do. Like at the end of like a Hell in a Cell, one of the wrestlers grabs the guy, and then Godzilla does that weird backwards floating with his feet forward, skid across the ground.
Floats like a butterfly.
Yeah, just bashes him in the face. They do it more than once.
Yeah, do it 3
They're
times.
torturing the poor guy.
Yes, Megalon's already given up at this point.
That's such a dirty trick. So dirty.
We should totally watch the Mystery Science Theater episode of this.
Yeah, so
'Cause
this was the other one that was Mystery Science
This
Theater.
and Ebony Horror of the Deep, and they're both really
Great
funny
fun.
episodes.
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we can wrap up, friends, if we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
Cool. Well, thank you both for being on the show. Thank you, Laura. And thank you, Ross.
It's
thank
fine.
you, Ross, as always.
I insisted
I mean, you
You are
did.
from
here.
the
Yeah.
beginning, and I live here.
And this
so.
is your favourite. You deserve to be here for your favourite
Yeah,
film.
as soon as we started broadcasting, as soon as we started recording these
A
episodes,
year ago
a
today.
year ago today, Laura said, as soon as you get to Godzilla vs. Megalon, I am being on that show. And you said that probably a year ago today, and here we are.
And here we are.
I just really like this film.
Well, that's an
I have
excellent...
a lot of feelings.
This film really means a lot to me on a personal level.
No, I'm not anymore.
Anymore. You can find us on most of the social networking sites. We're on Instagram all separately. We're on Twitter separately. Kaijusaurus.tumblr.com is the blog from which this podcast is spun off. We are hosted on SoundCloud, soundcloud.com/Kaijusaurus. Find us there, all our new episodes. We're on iTunes, Kaijusaurus Podcast. There'll be links to all our individual Twitters and Instagrams. We're on Facebook, Kaijusaurus Podcast. Give us a like if you're feeling generous, and please do give us a review or a rating on iTunes if you're feeling generous.
Do not be harsh about me.
Do not be harsh about Laura, because our fragile soul can't take it.
I know.
But it does mean a lot, so thank you all. And so Ross, up next
Right.
for you is another film
I feel
Laura's
so left out.
isn't another film Laura's already seen. John Fukuda's back,
Good, my boy John.
and Godzilla faces his doppelganger
Oh.
in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
Right. Sounds
I
good.
love this film.
This is a good film as well.
I'm looking forward
And
to that.
it's the final foray of Mr. Fukuda.
Right. Well, I'll get ready to say goodbye to him. I've had quite a fun ride with him.
Yeah.
I look forward to what's next.
We'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for listening to us and supporting us for the past year. We hope you continue
welcome.
to enjoy, and thank you all. Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.